Hello, I'm sitting down with Lon Safko, author of the Social Media Bible. Lon, big reason why I'm sitting here in front of you right now is because I've got some questions as to how social media applies to the automobile industry. You know, I hear social media all over the place nowadays, and obviously your book is doing very well. I've been doing some research on you. #2 seller on Amazon.
Yeah, thank you.
So congratulations, very nice.
Thanks a lot.
Anyway, so I've got some questions for you, and that is, can you give me some examples how social media is actually changing the car industry?
You know, honest to God, social media is changing every single industry, and when I get requests for keynotes and presentations, everybody's like, well, how do you tailor it to my industry? You know, the funny thing is, you don't have to tailor it to every industry. It applies to everybody. You know as well, I mean, we've known each other for quite a while, and I know that you're all about relationship building.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost an oxymoron and a joke that in the auto industry, you never buy a car from somebody wearing a plaid jacket.
Sure.
You never buy a car from somebody that you don't trust. Well, trust is what people buy. They have to have a relationship with you, the salesperson, so that they trust you before they're going to plunk down that kind of money. I mean, and it's true for every industry. It doesn't matter what you're selling, whether it's a product, a service, even an inexpensive product or something as expensive as an automobile. And the cool thing about social media is that there's all of these tools out there that set up platforms and ways that you can have this two-way communication with your customers and your prospects that nurtures this kind of a trust relationship. Twitter, people follow you on Twitter because they care about what you have to say about your industry. And when they listen to you enough times, they know that they can trust you. There's 3 words in social media that are really critical and should be critical in your industry, and in many cases are. Sincere, transparent, authentic. Sincere, transparent, and authentic. If you can be that way, if you can be sincere, transparent, and authentic, think of those 3 words when you sit down with a customer who wants to buy a new Honda, for example. If you can get them to believe that you are sincere, you're being transparent or truthful, and you're absolutely authentic about what you're saying, you've made the sale. And those are the 3 most important words in social media. So the same words apply to your industry that apply to social media. So if you can set up, let's say, Twitter, where people are following you, eventually they'll see those 3 qualities in your tweets, and you will build this trust relationship. If you set up a blog and you're talking about your industry and you're talking about Honda and you're talking about customer service, they're going to see those qualities and you're going to build trust. And trust, you know, because I know how you sell. As a matter of fact, I heard you quote the other day. You said that you build those kinds of relationships with people that you don't even sell to, and 7, 8 out of 10 of them eventually come back and buy from you when it's time to buy a car.
Sure.
So social media really is the tools that enable you to exponentially increase your reach to build trust with your customers.
Okay. As a business, and I guess this applies to any business, Lon, as a business, how important is it for that business to be on Twitter, to be on Flickr, and to be on all these other
YouTube and
thank you,
blogs.
all these other social media websites? How important is that for a business to be cognizant of that out there?
You know, and it's funny. I mean, I consult with a lot of Fortune 1000 companies, and I've talked with Campbell's and Levi Strauss and Merck and Kellogg, and the question always comes up: should I do social media marketing? And my answer is, take the word social media out of it just for a moment and rephrase that question. And then everybody pauses and giggles. Should I do marketing? Well, if you don't do marketing, you might as well just close the doors because you're going to go out of business. Social media is just a new set of tools that help you do your conventional marketing. So the first thing, it's about integration of the new social media tools and your conventional marketing techniques that you've used all along. The next step is that, do you need to be on MySpace? Do you need to be on Facebook? Do you need to be tweeting? Let me give Facebook just as an example. Right now, Facebook has just signed up more than 450 million members. 450 million members. If Facebook was a country, it would be the 4th largest country in the world. Think about that. The 4th.
Incredible.
Oh my gosh. And in marketing, we have a term, it's called watering hole. When you do successful marketing, what you do is you identify watering holes. For example, if you advertise in a trade journal, the trade journal is going to be an industry trade journal that represents your industry.
Sure.
You know how many people sign up and read that magazine. You know what the subscription is. So the watering hole is 3,500.
Okay.
If you do advertising on radio, the watering hole, you're going to go to your demographic. If you're looking for an older audience, you're going to go for older,
Sure.
maybe classical music or maybe a jazz audience. So you're going to identify your demographic. So when you have 450 million people, like-minded people, something that you already have in common with, and what do you have in common? Facebook.
The industry.
And,
Okay.
yeah, both.
Sure.
Actually, the industry and Facebook.
Sure.
Because once you get into Facebook, you can create what's called groups, and you can create fan pages about, let's say, in this case, Honda Cars of Denver. So people who are interested in Honda can go and interface with other experts, non-experts, customers, and exchange these ideas. So the question is, should a Honda dealership, for example, be in Facebook? I mean, I think you already know the answer is so ridiculously yes,
Sure.
because every social media tool is free. I'm going to say that again, it's free. The tool is free. Now, do you need human resources? Well, of course you do, but you also need human resources if you're going to do a television campaign or a newspaper campaign. So the human resource element is still there, but you can't advertise in a newspaper, you can't advertise on television for free.
Sure.
Now the same thing applies to Twitter and any of the other social media tools. When you're talking about either thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of people that all have something in common, yes, you've got to be there. Now the most important thing that you asked specifically, do you need to be in Flickr? Do you need to be in YouTube? Well, I just got a request from a woman who is booking speakers in the Netherlands, Holland, the Netherlands. I don't market myself in the Netherlands. I don't market myself outside of the United States. But she was on YouTube and she's checking out videos and she comes across my video and says, my God, I like the way this guy speaks. She sends me an email and she books me. Well, I get a full gig. I get, first class airfare, 5-star hotel. Now, was it worth it to me to take the time to put the videos that I had anyway up on YouTube and have her find me? Yeah, I got a gig. So, and I'll get more. She's into YouTube. She's into video. Your customers are into video. Trust me, if they like video and they're going to buy a Honda, they're going to be looking at videos about Honda. If they're into photographs, they're going to be on Flickr. It's just that simple.
Okay. Very good. How is social media changing the market, the automobile industry? I mean, how's it changing?
Well, the auto industry actually is really embracing it. It's kind of surprising me. If you look at some of the stuff, there was a mockumentary on BMW, the new BMW launch in America, and it was about a 5-minute, it looked like a documentary, but it was a joke, and they built this gigantic ramp, a 60-story ramp, and they took the car and they shot it because they were going to launch it from Germany to America. And it got millions of hits. It was just absolutely hysterical. They got it. People watched it. It became viral. And here was a commercial that, it cost the same amount to produce that commercial as if they put it for free on YouTube, as if they put it on every major network across the country. But rather than spending $1, $2, or $10 million showing it on major network, it was viral, and more people saw it on YouTube than would have if they actually played it on the major networks. So right there, how do you spend the same amount of money to produce the same commercial, but get 1 million times as many people to watch it? Now, Ford, General Motors has done a really terrific job using Twitter and some of the other tools. So if you look right at the very top of both the domestic and the international automobile industry, you'll see that they're catching on to this because they know that that's where the people are going. That's how they're going to communicate with the people. Back to trust again.
So would you say that social media is not being force-fed, it's actually a decision upon the individual?
Well, it's being force-fed on the corporations.
Okay.
Because let me tell you, they're fighting it. They're kicking and screaming, and they don't want to spend the extra resources. They don't want to learn about social media. They think it's a fad. And I'm talking Fortune 1000 companies here, and honestly, I've heard it firsthand. And their other fear is a loss of control. If you remember, most Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies have to file with the Securities Exchange Commission. And there are some really, really strict rules of what they can say, what they can't say, how they advertise, what can go public. So one of the things that's very difficult for an SEC traded company is controlling their message and making sure that they don't break any SEC rules. Well, take for example Intel,
Okay.
Fortune 1000 company,
Sure.
based here in Phoenix. I was meeting with them at one time, and I said, how many people, first of all, I said, do you have a blogging platform that your employees can blog on? And they said, yes. And I said, well, how many employees do you have talking about your company?
Sure.
And the guy looks at me and says, none. Why? And I said, well, they don't really quite trust us. They don't trust management, so they're afraid to openly speak. I said, well, let me ask you a tougher question. How many employees are actually talking on blogs outside of Intel? He said, 6,000. I'm going to let that sink in for a second.
Interesting.
And so I said to the guy, I said, how are you ever at this point going to herd 6,000 cats back into the barn? It's already gone. The genie's out of the bottle at this point.
Sure.
If you would have jumped on it sooner and earned the trust of the employee, then they would have used the internal platform and you would have at least been able to monitor and have some control over it. Now you don't have any control. Now control is an illusion,
Sure.
but it's better to have an illusionary control than it is to have chaos.
Sure. With social media out there, obviously when somebody comes in and they buy a product from me,
Right.
my main goal is to maintain that customer. How will social media allow me to maintain that customer
Love it.
forever?
I absolutely love those kinds of questions. Okay, let's take, for example, first of all, let's take blog. There's something that I call the trinity of social media, which is blogging, microblogging, and social networks. Blogging, we all know something about. We've all read a blog.
Sure.
And you and I just spent part of the afternoon setting your blog up so that you're doing it.
Sure.
And that's cool. So you see how really simple it is. And we've also discussed the SEO aspects. We can get into that later. Microblogging, really, that just means things like Twitter. And because Twitter is so big, it means Twitter.
Sure.
And the social networks are some of the things that we've just talked about, where we'll be talking about Facebook and LinkedIn and Ning. That's the three most important things that if you're going to do any kind of social media, that's what you got to focus on first. Now, let's take a blog, for example. What if once a week you read the trade journals, you get information from Honda, you get you learn things from your tech people. What if every time you've learned something new about a particular model car, a new way to get better gas mileage, a better way to take care of the top coat of the paint, treat the leather interior.
Sure.
You know what? If I bought a car and it was the first time I've ever had a leather interior, I don't know how to treat it.
Right.
I'm still not clear of whether we're still supposed to follow those rules of getting our oil changed every 3,000 miles.
Sure.
So what if you had a blog that once a week, maybe twice a week, you told people, you know what, here's the new rules on how to change your oil. Here's a product that we like that really is going to save your leather seats for the life of your car. Doesn't it have value? Think about the value that would give your customers. So what would happen is your customers would come back week after week, or they use something called an RSS feed, really simple syndication. It's a button that's on your page so that anytime you create a new blog entry with something new and cool, it automatically sends them an email saying, dude, Ed's got a new blog, click here to check it out. 100% automatic.
Oh, interesting.
So now you got this customer through the life of their car. You're telling them about service. You're telling them about how to care for the car. You might tell them about recalls. I mean, we all saw, what was it, Toyota?
Toyota, sure.
I mean, wouldn't it be awesome if Toyota was tweeting immediately to every single customer that they had that particular model, stop right now, get your car in here,
Sure.
be careful, this is what you need.
Sure.
If they tweeted, everybody would be instantly notified. If they had a blog where everybody would get an instant notification that here's the instructions of how to deal with that accelerator problem. That's social media. So I want you to get that what's in it for me information out, that I didn't know that information. And tweeting is even easier. You and I are sitting, you got a couple of minutes in between interviews or something, grab your phone, you came up with a new idea, just real quick, bang, and guess what? Every single person who's following you on Twitter will get your insight within seconds and be able to absorb it within about 5 seconds. A lot of value. You're constantly touching that customer. You're constantly being in front. You're constantly giving them something of value. Honest to goodness, when it comes time to upgrade that car, they're coming to you.
Interesting. Big question here is, I spend a lot of money on my website.
Mm.
I've got a webmaster, and I got a hosting this and all that, and it just seems like it appears to be the money pit.
Yeah.
Okay?
Where's the ROI?
Right. Now, where do I spend my money? How do I make my website one of the top viewed, and is that what I want?
Sure, that's great. That's great. Well, you still got to have a website. I mean, we know, in the late '90s, we didn't know what to do with this thing called the internet, and most companies, their first websites was something that we all joked about. We called it brochureware. Brochureware. We simply took an electronic version of whatever our brochure was, and guess what? That was our homepage. But you know what? I think we've grown a little bit over the last decade, and we realized that websites are really, really important. And even more important is something called SEO, search engine optimization.
Sure.
Which means that how can I, and I'm going to use this word carefully, manipulate my page the right way so that when the search engines come to index it, and I mean all the search engines, it's not just Google, it's Yahoo and MSN and Ask and all the other engines out there. How am I going to structure this web page to make sure that I show up in the top, at least the top 10? And because statistics show that more than 80% of all click-throughs actually take place on the first page. No one goes to the second page.
Right.
If you're not on the first page, you're not in the game. It
Right.
really is just that simple. And then the second thing is we all start at the top. So if the Holland dealer down the street is doing a little bit more on their website than you are, and they come up in the first position and you're number 5, there's a good chance you ain't in the game again.
Sure.
So there's the first thing. You know that nobody makes a major purchase anymore without actually getting online and doing some research on it.
Absolutely.
They're looking for peer.
My industry is actually 80%.
And that's a great percentage.
Sure.
So right out of the gate, 80% of your budget needs to be spent on your webpage. I mean, and again, that's a no-brainer. If 80% of your business is coming from there, 80% of your marketing budget, or more, because if you spend more, you'll increase that 80%.
Sure.
Now, so I tell everybody, don't ignore the SEO aspect. And in the Social Media Bible, people said, why do you have a chapter on search engine optimization? SEO has nothing to do with social media. Yes, it does. Any technology that allows for two-way communication, to transmit information and to build trust and relationships, that's social media to me. And that's why it's in there. The second thing is we're going to get back to this trinity, the number one part of the trinity, which is blogs. I mean, honest to gosh, we can sit here until the sun sets, and I can tell you the advantages of blogs. But let me summarize it. Create a blog site, not on blogger.com or even on the socialbible.ning.com, because you can go to the socialmediabible.ning.com and actually get a free blog.
Sure.
You literally can be blogging in 7 minutes,
Okay.
because we don't charge for it. But what I really suggest is that you go get WordPress. Have your tech dude download WordPress. By the way, there are a few companies that are using it, like the CIA, the FBI, Ford Motor Company, CNN, me. There's a lot of people. It is the industry standard. And you download it and simply install it on your server next to your standard web page. If your tech guy tells you that it took more than 15 minutes, just simply fire that person because they lied to you. This is a 15-minute job. So, and it's free.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah, because they're going to tell you, oh, it's a big deal, we're going to lose control, it's going to breach the firewall. All of that is absolute nonsense, but they're trying to protect their position.
Sure.
Because remember, HTML web pages take a guy in a white coat and a $3,000 piece of software to develop anything, and this is free and it's easy.
Sure.
The reason that you're going to do that is you're going to use that blog, as I said earlier, to create no more than 500 words. Between 400 and 500 words, which, by the way, is about a half a page or a page.
Okay.
Okay? Put down the what's in it for me, the I didn't know that thoughts that come into your head that when people in your industry read it, they're going to say, wow, that's cool stuff. Now, what's going to happen is the more of these things you get, the more the search engines are going to be fed, which says, okay, this guy's active. He's creating a lot of new web pages or blog posts. So you're going to start creeping up on the search engines. The other thing is the search engines look at blogs with a significantly different perspective than they look at HTML. A regular web page, they say, okay, probably hasn't been updated in 2 years, and we're going to give it some points, whatever. Oh, blogs, by definition, it's got to be fresh, it's got to be new, it's got to be exciting. So if that's the case, and somebody types in your keywords in your industry, what do you think the search engine's going to return? An HTML page that hasn't been changed in 2 years? Or a blog that gets updated a couple times a week?
Obviously the blog with the most recent information.
Absolutely. So what happens is if you have your competitor's got a website and you've got a blog site, who's coming up first? You are. And one of the examples that I give in my presentation is that when I was first researching blogs for my book, and this is December of 2007, I did a blog called Quizno Subway Deformation of Sandwich, where Subway sued Quizno. It's hysterical. Contact me, I'll give you more information on it.
Okay.
But what happened was I wrote this blog, and okay, that was it. I just hit post or save and didn't even think about it. Within 30 minutes, Google sent me a Google alert that said that they had already indexed my page, my web page, my blog post.
So we're talking 30 minutes versus...
12 to 14 days.
My goodness, wow.
Yeah, web pages take 12 to 14 days for the search engines to index them, which means that your page, and if they get sandboxed for some reason, that's techie, they could be not indexed for 30 days or indefinitely. So I knew, based on my SEO background, that we had 12 to 14 days. Now, my page is indexed in 30 minutes. And here's the fun part. In December of 2007, if you type in the word Quizno Subway social media, Quizno had about 33 million web references. Don't use my name. I'm the only Lon Safko, so that's cheating. I want you to type in Quizno Subway social media. Quizno had 33 million. Quizno had 500,000.
Okay.
Subway had 33 million because it talks about underground trains.
Oh, sure, Subway.
So we got 500,000, 33 million, and there was like over 100 million on social media. So none of those keywords were ever going to take you to my website. Actually, it did. Because of the way I structured the blog, I came up number 1 on Google, I came up number 2 on Google, and I came up number 4 on Google. First, second, and fourth place in the Google rankings. And guess what? Today, I'm still number 1, number 2, and number 4 on Google, and that's been since 2007. That's what blogs will do for you.
Wow. What a difference. Boy, this is ever evolving, isn't it?
You know, it really is. It's kind of tough to stay up with, and I know this sounds self-promoting. The Social Media Bible will keep you up to date, and we're in the process, I'm not supposed to say anything, but we're in the process of doing the 2nd edition. Don't know when that's going to be ready. But yeah, it's ever evolving. But the thing is that if you understand it, you understand what I just said right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a technical person.
No,
right?
absolutely not.
But do you get it?
Oh, absolutely.
Because you just took a moment to hear it.
Sure.
And if more people would just do that, they would be able to take the advantage of it. And really the key is hearing it before your competition does.
Sure, sure. That brings me probably to my final question is, why don't people get this?
You know, sometimes I shake my head, you know. I mean, we've sold, the book is doing really well, but it makes me wonder, you know, that if there's a million people in business, why haven't we sold 1 million copies? You would think that everybody would say, wait a minute, there's something to this. I need to know about it. A lot of it is fear. A lot of people think that this is still a fad and it's going to go away. That's not the case.
Sure.
We all said that about email. Oh, we don't need email. It's just going to, we've got voicemail and telephones and we got snail mail. It's just going to add too much responsibility. We don't have enough resources to follow up on another communication tool. Well, sorry, email is here, and it's pretty much probably going to be here the rest of our lives. And the same thing goes for social media. If you embrace it, you're going to have the competitive advantage. If your competitor embraces it, then you're going to lose your position. So that's the first thing. The second thing is a lack of control. Again, speaking with Fortune 1000 companies, the thing I hear constantly is, I don't want to go do social media because everything will get out of control. It doesn't have to. Most companies already have a media policy in place. Employees not allowed to talk to the news media, the television news, or the radio news, or newspaper news without at least working with PR, communications, somebody within the organization, so that you're always on message. Not that you're trying to censor the message, that you need to stay on message. You can't give up intellectual property by talking about it, and you can't void anything to do with the Securities Exchange rules. So take those same media rules that human resources have and just add the word social media. You're not allowed to talk in a blog anything different than you're allowed to talk on television. So actually, it is still open to the employees. Give them the training, give them permission. Your employees are the best salespeople that you have. These people are dedicating 40, 50, 60 hours of their lives every 7 days. You know what? They want to talk about what they do for a living. Empower them with the tools to become salespeople. So if you got 1,000 employees, guess what? You got 1,000 new salespeople that you don't have to pay to sell if you give them those tools. You do have to put some controls. So for a while, they have to run all of their blog posts. Before they hit post, they save them as a draft, and they just simply have marketing or PR or legal take a look at them, not to censor, but just to make sure that they don't break any rules. So you do have control if you embrace it. But like Intel, if you don't, you're going to have 6,000 of your employees out there talking about you, and you'll have absolutely no control. So that's kind of another reason. And then the biggest one is we just don't have the resources to take on another set of tools. No, you don't have the resources not to.
Sure.
Because the tools are free. Implementation is free. Stop doing a direct mail piece. Take the money that you're moving from there and the human resources, pocket the money that you would spend, because there is no spend. Take the same amount of human resources and implement a Twitter campaign. Implement a blog campaign. It's going to be significantly more effective. Post videos on YouTube. So just reallocate those resources to social media, because the return on investment is significantly better.
Terrific. Well, thank you very much, Lon Safko, the Social Media Bible.
Ed, man, this is awesome being here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.